let it look at that, and you'll see something pop up that says something about your internet, and you'll tap that, and it'll give you all the information. Actually, that takes you right to the registration page. If you're interested in going, it is well worth going to. We've also got things that can just be interesting to you. Great Bible Courses, which is the Georgia Cumberland Conference Bible study program. We don't have anything that's unique to us. We use Discover, Amazing Facts, all those Bible studies, but we have kind of a common clearinghouse where you can get to it. And then if you want to learn more about what our Leads program is all about, that's this and this. And the first 2 or 3 people that get up here, we have 2 pads of sticky notes. So I'm not going to stop you. Just run for it. These are sticky notes. Yeah, but I'm not going to give these out. You have to come get them. So, and then and whoever gets up here first. and then if you like stickers, we've got Reach Your Neighbor stickers. So these are kind of fun. I don't have one on this water bottle. I have one on my other water bottle, the one I take everywhere. This one's the one I use when I'm going to be gone all day. But it just says Reach Your Neighbor. It's just a little round sticker. You can stick it on anything. And I also have for you, this is something that I want all of you to get, is if there's somebody else you can help. There we go. I have a prayer card for you. Yes, take that. Yes, take it. Yes, you're the next one up. So. Oh, very good. We had these at camp meeting, and so I kind of tried to swipe as many of our advertising materials as I could get, because I knew I'd be coming here, and I'm going to be in Athens, and so I wanted to make sure I had some for everybody. Thank you very much. This is a little card that is, a little Reach Your Neighbor product, but this is a prayer card, and I'm going to tell you how to use this. So just hang on to that, and I'll be telling you in a little bit how to use that. My name is Ann, and I started doing Bible work. Should I tell you the year? 1984. I know some of you weren't even born then, but that's okay. It's been, what a ride. It has been so fun. I've had the chance to go all over this country, work with many evangelists in several different conferences. I had the chance to work with the Finleys as their on-site Bible instructor during NET 95 and NET 96, so in Chattanooga and in Orlando. That was so fun. And I got married during that time, too. When we were in Chattanooga, guess where we were? Right next to Southern Adventist University. And, yep, they asked us if we would include the ministerial students in our work, and especially me, if I would take as many of the ministerial students out as I could, giving Bible studies, running leads, doing stuff like that. And a friend of mine had already told me about this guy. She said, he's perfect. Perfect. He's just perfect for you. She says, you need to meet this guy. I'm like, I'm not really into this kind of thing. The setup, all that kind of thing. She says, no, he's great. He'd be just perfect. I'm like, you know what? If he's so perfect, you date him. And she's like, oh, no, he's way too young for me, because she's a good bit older than I am. And, well, the rest is history, yes. But I will never forget the very first time I went to somebody's house, and it was my turn to actually do the talking at the door. It was the first series of meetings that I had worked as a Bible instructor. I had gotten a phone call from a family friend. He was the conference evangelist for the Southern New England Conference. Some of you may know him or have known him, Elder O.J. Mills. Did you know? Oh, no kidding. Oh, my goodness. Wow. Elder Mills was the evangelist, and his wife, Millie. And he called me up. I was, at that time, the general manager for a vegetarian restaurant and health food store down in Columbus, Georgia. And it was Uchee Pines Institute, where I grew up and that my parents used to run before they passed away. It's their city mission. And so I was running that. And so Elder Mills called me up and said, I'm looking for a Bible instructor. Would you be interested in coming? I had been praying to the Lord and asking him to open a door for me to become a Bible instructor. But like I said this morning, when the door opens, how I hesitate to go through it. Some feel like Moses, I don't know how to do that. And he says, great, I'll teach you how. That's what I want. I want someone I can teach. So I said, okay, I'll come. And so Gary Gibbs, who is now the Pennsylvania Conference president, used to work with Amazing Facts, used to work with Hope Channel, is going to be at our weekend that we're doing in August. You got to come just to hear him. He's amazing. But he was a Bible instructor then. That was just before he joined Amazing Facts as a student evangelist. And so Gary trained me in being a Bible worker. And he was really good at knocking on doors and asking people if they would like to have Bible studies, because he had done literature evangelism for quite a while before he went into Bible work. And so we had probably 40 cards that we had followed up on, 40 names that we had knocked on their doors. And every time he would say, do you want to do this one? I said, I'll watch you do this one more. And do you want to do that? I'll watch you do this one more. And so finally we got to the very last card, the very last one. We had just one card left in the stack. And so we got to the door. Well, we were driving to the house, and Gary says, you've never done one of these. Don't you think maybe you should do this one? I said, yeah, I suppose I should. And he said, okay, well then let's just review. What do you say? And so we went over it. And back then, I always brought we always took a pictorial aid. It is a book full of pictures. It's wonderful. Maybe you've seen one of these. Big book, and I'd show the pictures of Daniel 7, the animals, that come up out of the sea. And people really, they love to see that. And so while I'd be telling my little spiel, I'd just kind of flick through 2 or 3 of those pictures. And so Gary was like, okay, so what are you going to say? And this, and what are you going to include? And this, and okay. He says, good. Sounds like you've got it all ready. So have everything I need. I have the card. I have the Bible lesson. I have the book. And so we go. And it's 8 o'clock at night. It was our last stop of the day. And the house was dark, except for there was a light on in the very back. And there was a window in the door we could see right into the back of the house. Rang the doorbell. And I could see the man start walking to the front of the house. And every step he took, my panic. Just as he got to the door, I knew I was about to fall over. I couldn't say a word. I shoved everything in Gary's hand, said, you got to talk. And I moved behind him. The door opened right then. Gary steps up and he says, did this feel they said yes to Bible studies? I'll tell you more about them next presentation later this afternoon. They said yes. And we had Bible studies with them. But I never did run a lead. Not once the entire time I was there. I was terrified. I knew I was going to mess it up. I knew I was going to say it wrong. Because at that time, it was still kind of all about me. Yeah, I had to learn. It's not about me. So I was scared. I knew I was going to mess it up. But that's why I want, is it raining? Cool. That's why I want us to spend a little bit of time right now talking about what do you say at the door. This is the very first decision that you ask them to make. When you go to a Bible study, every time you go, you're asking for some decision, big or small. And this first one is kind of a medium-sized one. It's kind of a medium-sized ask. It's not a big ask like asking, will you give your life to Jesus? Or Will you start to keep the Sabbath? Or would you like to join the church? It's not one of those, but it's also not a little one like, does this make sense to you? That's a fairly small decision question. This one's kind of a medium decision question. And it's, could I come to your house and could we sit down and have Bible studies together? Could I take an hour of your time once a week? That's what this one's about. So it's kind of a medium ask. But you do it right there at the very first time that you're at their house. That may seem scary. But let me just say this. I want you to remember this. You can write this down. You can stick this on your refrigerator. Those of you who got the sticky notes, you can you can write this down. All right. And that is a decision question is just an invitation into a deeper relationship with Jesus. That's all it is. So decision questions are important because they're an invitation to take a deeper step with Jesus. And this is your very first decision question that you ask. And here's how we do it. And I'm going to go ahead and just take one of these, pass them to the back. Thank you very much. That should be enough for over there. Everybody can get one. Here. There we go. All right. So here's what I like to do. Before I go to the house. Okay. Before I go up to the person's house, before I leave the church or my home or wherever I'm leaving from, here's what I like to do. I like to put together a little gift bag, and in the bag I put a little sharing book. Something simple. Don't put anything that's doctrinal. Just put something that's all about Jesus, getting to know Jesus better. Thank you so much. Some simple sharing book. Steps to Christ is a good one. I will just tell you this. Steps to Christ is pretty heavy theology. I love Steps to Christ. You may want to save that one until you've been there 2 or 3 times. You've been to the house 2 or 3 times. But it's okay to put that in the gift bag if that's what you have. But a simple sharing book is a great idea. Put that in the bag. And then I usually put some other small little gift, like a little bookmarker or a Bible highlighter. I mean, I'm there to encourage Bible study, right? So I want to give them some little tool that'll help them in their Bible study, their personal Bible study. And then the first lesson, a sample lesson. That's what I put in the bag. And then I get their name. Either I have a card that came to the church or wherever they're coming to, or if it came online, then I've got a printout from the pastor or whoever's coordinating the Bible studies. So I plot out where I'm going to go. I get my gift bag ready. I get somebody to go with me. I really like to run leads with somebody else. I've done it a lot of times by myself, but especially in this day and age, I think it's just a smart idea to have somebody else with you, even if it's a teenager. It doesn't have to be a big, burly guy, ladies, but it can be someone young, but just somebody else is helpful to have there with you. Jesus sent them out 2 by 2. And if you can't have somebody to go with you, call somebody. Tell them you're going out. Ask them to be praying while you're out there. It's just great to have someone know where you're going to be going.
And it helps, I've done it before, and it helps when you have a blank moment that the other person
can fill in. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So I get the little gift bag ready. I plot out how to get to their house, how the best way to drive there. I type it into my GPS, or if I've got several, then I'll use a little app like Circuit. There's a great little app because it'll plot out a circle for you. Where you put the beginning address and the ending address and then all the in-between ones. It'll tell you how to get there the most efficient way. And so then my partner and I pray, and off we go. We get to the house, and I do not, if I can help it, pull into the driveway. Why? Why would I not pull into their driveway? Because they may need to use their driveway. They may not be home yet. They may come in just as I'm standing at their door. I've had that happen. Or the garage door may come up just as I'm about to ring the doorbell. I've had that happen. And so I don't park in the driveway because they may need to use it. However, I will just say this. Since I have been in Tennessee, I have parked in the driveway more than any other place I've ever been. Just because there are no shoulders on the roads here. And you may have to park in the driveway because there's no safe place to park on the street. But if you're in a residential neighborhood, it's probably pretty safe to park on the street in front of their house. Then I walk up to the house. How do I do that? Okay, so I'm telling you how to park. Now I'm going to tell you how to walk. Don't walk on their grass. Do not walk on their grass. And don't walk in their flower beds. Even if they look like a bunch of weeds to you, still don't walk on their flower beds. Now, I have been to a few houses where there is no pathway up to the front door, and you just have to walk on the grass. That's okay. Obviously, they don't care if they don't have a pathway. But if there's a pathway, use the pathway. Stay on the driveway, don't cut. It's okay. You can take those few extra seconds. People are watching, especially now that people have video doorbells. They are watching. And you don't want to make them mad before you even start to talk to them. There's some people who are very touchy about their grass. I understand that. Man, they spend a lot of money on their grass. They are very touchy about it, and they have a right to be. So let's just stay off the grass if we can and just go up to the door. Also, when you're going up to the door with your partner, be focused on the door. Be focused on the people that are in the house, not chit-chatting as you were when you were in the car. Finish up your conversation in the car, press the pause button, and go to the door. Don't talk while you're standing at the door. The only exception to that would be if you're saying, oh my, what a beautiful wreath. Or do these people not have a lovely lawn? Wow, that's such a beautiful yard. Those things are fine. Those things are fine to say. But other than that, just be professional, be focused on the door, on the person who's about to come. Also, as you're walking up to the door, open your eyes. What do you see? You see a wheelchair ramp? What does that tell you? Do you see toys? What does that tell you? How about a motorcycle? What does that tell you? These things are telling you things about your new potential friends. Take note. All of those things help you build relationship. Do you like to ride motorcycle? Well, you've now got something in common with this person who's got 3 motorcycles parked out in their yard. Yeah. Or a boat. Just keep your eyes open. Be aware, because these are all opportunities for relationship building, ways to connect. Absolutely. Okay, so now I've told you how to park, I've told you how to watch, I've told you how to walk. Now I'm going to tell you, how do you knock? Okay, knock. I don't like to go up, I don't want to sound like the police, but I want to sound friendly, but I want to sound loud enough that they can hear me in the back of the house. So, I do use the doorbell, but half the time the doorbell does not work. So I'll use the doorbell, but I seriously use the doorbell like this. I do like that, probably because I can't hear so well anymore, but also because doorbells just don't ring that much, and I need to make sure if I heard it or not. If I don't hear it, then I knock, and I wait. I give it a good 10, 15 seconds. It feels like forever, but I want to give a little time for them to come to the door. And then if they haven't come to the door, or if I don't see any motion, I am not above scanning the windows just to, as I'm standing there, I just kind of look at the windows of the front of the house to see if I see a curtain move or something, and then I wave. I know, it sounds pushy. No, don't be creepy. Don't get up there and go looking in the window. That's weird, But if you're just standing, Yeah, if a dog comes running to the door and starts bark, 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 there's probably someone home. If the dog comes to the door and barks 2 or 3 times and then goes quiet, he's probably there by himself. Just funny little things you learn as you're going to people's houses. Okay, so after I've waited 10 or 15 seconds, if I don't hear anything, if I don't see anything where I wave, then I knock again. Same knock. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Loudly enough that it can be heard in the back. I don't knock on their glass. I don't use keys on their glass. Don't make them mad before you even get a chance to talk to them. You don't want them worried that you're going to break their house. So, and here's another reason. Glass sounds really loud when you knock on it to you standing right there, but it does not conduct well, so it doesn't carry through the house, like the wooden door or the wooden door frame or even the wooden side of the house. Don't knock on the side of the house if it's brick. Don't knock on the side of the house if it's brick. Ouch. But if it's wood, that's actually a great thing to do because then they will hear it through the house. But wait that 10 or 15 seconds after you've knocked the second time. They'll usually show up if they're home after that second knock.
Quick question, if you saw a ramp, do you give them a little more time because
I'm
handicap?
Oh, that's a good idea. Go ahead.
My question was, is this on?
Yes.
Yeah. If you see a ramp, I'm going to assume that it's somebody who has trouble walking.
disabled,
So
yes.
do you give them a little extra time before
Yes.
you knock again? Because that can
Yes.
be irritating
Yes.
if, they keep hearing, I'm coming.
They're trying their hardest to get there. Yes, absolutely. If you see any signs of a disability, slow the whole process down. Give them plenty of time. Be respectful. It's just, you need time. I mean, able-bodied people need time. If they're in the bathroom, if they're taking a nap, if they're brushing their teeth, just need a second. Just give them a minute. It's okay. So I wait those 10, 15 seconds. If need be, a little longer, 20, 30 seconds, then knock again, wait that little bit of time. The third time I knock, I wait about 5 or 10 seconds, and at that point, I just go ahead and leave because I figure if they're not here, I'll just come back later, different time, different day. It's all right. So, but when someone comes, I hold up my card that I've gotten that has their name on it, or if I have a printout, I just hold the printout and say, "Hi, Mrs. Doe, I'm Ann. And this is my friend Jane, and I'm with my free Bible study." That's the new, instead of the great Bible courses that we've been doing, we're switching over to my free Bible study. But you can still use my great Bible courses. It still works. We're not discontinuing that. But I will say, just for purpose of illustration here, "Hi, my name is Ann. I'm with my free Bible study, and we got your request for free Bible studies. We just wanted to stop by and show you the materials and get you started." And at this point, I'm holding the gift bag, and I pull the lesson out. And then you can follow along with me here. This is all the bold print. This is the bottom paragraph, front of the page here. So I take the lesson out and put it in their hands. I say, "This is the introductory lesson." Or you could even say, "This is an introductory lesson." Oh, while I'm thinking about it, because I'm going to forget if I don't say it right now. Notice in the top of the paragraph right above, the bold print, "Mrs. Doe, I'm Ann, and this is my friend Jane." We're the local representatives of the Voice of Prophecy. Voice of Prophecy prefers that we say, we're local volunteers with the Voice of Prophecy. So you might want to note that on your paper. That instead of representatives, just to say we're local volunteers with the Voice of Prophecy. Because,
Like you're not looking for money.
correct, and also it sounds like we're not employees of the Voice of Prophecy, because we're not. But we do represent the Voice of Prophecy. We do, but we're volunteers. So that's what they prefer for us to say. And I just haven't updated my thing yet. I apologize. Okay. So back to where you're talking. I hand them the lesson. I put the lesson in their hands. I say, this is an introductory lesson. You can see that they're simple to do. Just read the question and the answering Bible text and fill in the blanks. There are about 6 of the basic series, 6 lessons in the basic series. And it'll take about half an hour to an hour of your time once a week. I have said half an hour, especially during COVID when we were just doing drop-offs, and they were doing it all by themselves. But what I'm angling for is to sit down with them in their home. That's what I want. So when I'm doing that, I say it'll take an hour because I know when I go in there, it's going to be an hour. Why? How do I know that? Because I know they have questions they want to ask. And I know that we're going to spend some time getting to know one another. So I know it's going to take an hour. And so that's why I go ahead and say an hour. Okay, now another thing. Why do I say there are only 6 lessons in the basic series? Because how many lessons do most Bible study series have? Yeah, 26, 28 lessons. Well, because that gives me a stopping point if I need it. It gives them a stopping point if they need it. That way, at the end of the 6 lessons, what I say is, wow, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed our time together. There's an awful lot more. We've finished our basic series, but if you'd like more, we have a lot more. And that gives them a choice if they want to continue. Almost always they do. Almost always they do. But occasionally they will not. Also, if you have trouble making contact with them, that gives you a cutoff point if you need it. Okay. But let's just say that they're standing there, you've put this lesson in their hands, you've told them what it is, this is the free Bible lesson, you've told them how it works, that it's a fill in the blank, you've told them the time commitment takes about an hour once a week, then flipping over to the other side. The way it works, Mrs. Doe, is that we would come by next week and go over the lesson with you. And if you have questions, we could discuss those. When could we get together? Would this time next week be a bad time? Next Monday at 6 o'clock? Usually if the person is standing there, they're home. And that's a pretty good signal that they're going to be home at that time. Occasionally, I've had somebody say, oh, it's a total fluke that you found me here. I just dropped by the house to get something, and you showed up at just the right moment. I'm never here at this time. And I'm thinking, man, that's a God thing. Thank you, Jesus, that we got a chance to meet this family. And then we set up a different time. But usually, if they're there, it's a good time. And I'll say, so I'll look at my watch and say, oh, it's 3:15. Would this be a good time next Saturday afternoon for me to drop by? And they'll say yes. And if they say so, then I say, well, would you like me to write the time and our names on your lesson? Oh, yes, they say, because they're not going to remember. They don't remember my name already. So I take the lesson back. I write my name, Ann, and my friend's name, and Jane. And then I write Monday, 6 o'clock, and hand it back. What do I not put on there? What did I not put on there? I did not put my phone number. Did you notice that? Why? Have they had one Bible study with me yet? Do they know if they're going to like it or not? But are they scared about me potentially coming? Yes, they may get a little nervous about it, and if they can, they may get in touch with me. Now, I would prefer that they not. I will say this, though, to you. If they ask me, may I have your phone number, what do I say? Yes, absolutely, and I jot down my phone number. So I'm not going to play some game with them, but at the same time, I'm not going to make it easy to cancel before they have a chance to taste and see. So I write my name, our names, my name, partner, my name and my partner's name. I can't talk, and the time, hand them the card, the lesson back, and hand them the gift bag. And then I say, well, thank you very much. We'll see you next week. And off we go. Okay, what if they say, oh, well, what church do you go to? What church do you go to? Yeah, I tell them. I just say, oh, I go to the Adventist church up here on Economy Road. Do you have a church home? Where do you like to go to church? And I say, yeah, oh, great. You go to the Baptist church? That's fantastic. We're studying with several Baptists. I've got a Catholic I'm studying with. And can you believe it? I'm actually studying right now with a couple of Mormons. And they're like, wow, So that way they start to see this is for people of all faiths. But I'm not, playing kitty cat with them about not telling them where I go to church. I will say this. I used to go to pretty great lengths to try not to say where I go to church. But I don't do that anymore. I just don't. It's easy enough for them to go online and look up Discover Bible Lessons, and there they'll see it right there. Voice of Prophecy, a Seventh-day Adventist organization. 40 years ago when I got started, couldn't do that. Nobody had a computer. But now it's everywhere. There's no need to be cagey about it. Just tell them. But I don't make a big deal out of it. And I try to put it in the context of this is for people of all faiths. Sometimes I'll say, if they'll say, tell me what church are you a member of? What denomination are you a member of? I'll say, well, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. But these lessons are for people of all faiths. There are people of all faiths that are studying these lessons. That's just how I handle that personally. It seems to work well as anything else, as well as not telling them. Or better for me at this point. So let's just say, though, that when you say it takes an hour once a week, we'd come back and we'd sit down and go over the lesson together. Could we meet together? Would this time next week work? And they say, oh man, my mother is in the hospital and my child has just taken a new job in New York. And I'm spending time 3 places, home with my mom and with my kid when I can get up there. And I just can't do anything like that right now. It's just a little too much time commitment. Well, that's when I say, what comes next? Well, Mrs. Doe, I'd be happy to come by next week and just drop off the lesson. You can do it on your own. And a lot of times they'll say, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. Now, which is easier, to develop a relationship with somebody when you're sitting in their living room or around their dining room table, or when you're standing at the door handing them a lesson? In the living room or at the dining room table, that's right. But you still have an opportunity to develop some relationship with somebody at the door. I have a friend who started studies dropping off like that, and every time she'd drop off a lesson, she would make a point to say, so in the last lesson you were studying about, because she looked to see what she'd given them last week, and she'd go check it out to make sure she knew what the lesson was about, and she'd ask them some specific question about that lesson. And the nice thing about a lesson like It Is Written or Discover, they ask a decision question at the very end. They have one printed in the lesson. You can just go read that lesson and question and ask them the question right there at the door. So it was talking about giving your heart to Jesus. Is that a decision that you've made in your life? Have you made that decision to give your life to Jesus? You can ask that right standing there at the door. And if they say, I never have, but I'd like to. Well, could we pray right now, just standing right here at the door? And just stand there at the door and pray. I'll pray a sinner's prayer and inviting them to say yes to Jesus. You can develop a relationship with people at the door. As she started studying with, just asking those questions at the door as she dropped off, eventually he said, you know what, I've got more questions than we can talk about here at the door. Can you come in? And it turned into a sit-down study. It converted to a sit-down study. So you do still have a potential for it to become a sit-down study if it starts out as a drop-off. But I always ask for the sit-down study first. it is the easiest time to ask to sit down with them then. To do that first. If you can't, if they can't do it, you've always got a drop off to fall back to. And if they say, well, I'm just not home enough that I could even reliably be here for you to drop it off, then I'll say, well, we do offer the lessons through the mail or online, if you would prefer. And a lot of times they'll say yes. I'll tell you what the statistics run, okay? You're going to run about 20 to 25% to say yes to a sit-down study. So out of 10 cards, if you've got 10 names that you're that you're going to their house to ask them if they'd like to do Bible studies, 2 or 3 are going to say yes to a sit-down Bible study. 5 or 6 are going to say yes to a drop-off or mail. 1 or 2 will say no altogether. That's just about how your statistics are going to run. So don't think just because you have 10 names, because your personal ministries leader or your pastor gives you 10 names to follow up on, that means 10 Bible studies. It does not. It means 2 or maybe 3 Bible studies. So factor that down. If you get 5 names, you're probably going to get 1, maybe 2 Bible studies out of it. That's just how the numbers run. Now, I'm going to say this too. If you've never run a lead before, if you have never knocked on someone's door asking for Bible studies, the Lord may give you a higher percentage. I have seen that happen over and over. That somebody goes out with 2 cards, 2 names, and they come back with 2 Bible studies. I have seen that happen over and over, and I think Jesus does that to honor somebody who's getting started doing outreach for Jesus. So go for it. Go for it. So at any rate, whatever they decide, as we leave, I ask, Mrs. Doe, we love to pray for people in our community. Is there something that we could put on our prayer list for you? And then I write it down. When they're telling me, I'm jotting it down. I want them to know I take prayer seriously and that I am not going to forget to pray for that request. I hand them the gift bag, whatever they decide, even if it's no, I don't want anything. I hand them the gift bag and say, it was such a pleasure to meet you. We just want to give you a gift just for standing here and talking to us. Thank you so much. And I think you'll enjoy it. God bless you. And if they've scheduled, we'll see you next week. It's just that simple. Now, I know we've spent a lot of time, because I've spent a lot of time explaining all the little rabbit trails that surround this leads process. But, Miss Jeanette, could I pick on you? Could you come up and would you be the person standing at the door and I'll be the person knocking at the door? So you'll be answering the door. Okay. Oh, good. Yes.
Hello.
Hi, Jeanette.
Yes.
I'm Ann. I'm holding up the cards that if I have it, so she can see her handwriting. Hi, Jeanette. I'm Ann, and this is my friend Jane.
Hi, Jane.
And we're here. We got your request for My Free Bible Studies. We just wanted to bring you by the first lesson and get you started. Is this a good minute?
Sure. How fun.
Okay.
I forgot I had signed up for this.
Now, if you have a card with their name on it, don't give it to them.
Oh, sorry. I just took it away.
That's understandable. A lot of times they'll reach for it, and at that point I pull it back.
Oh, okay.
Why? Because I need that name. I need that information. In fact, I try to either take a picture of it or photocopy it before I go to the house, just in case I lose
Just
it.
in case they grab it.
Or just in case she takes it. Yes, she might take it. I have had that happen, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know how to get back here. So I was like, well,
I remember signing up for that a while back. Thank you.
indeed.
How exciting.
Well, this is an introductory lesson, and that just shows you what it's like. You can see that it's just, you read the Bible text and fill in the blank.
What denomination are you? No.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll do that. I will tell you, it's amazing how few times people ask that. But occasionally they will ask, what faith are you? And that's when I say, well, I say, well, these lessons are for people of all faiths, but I personally go to the Adventist church and blah, blah, blah. You know
Sorry.
what I said. That's okay.
Pretend I didn't say that.
It's okay. And most people are really nice, like Jeanette is. Okay. And so, Jeanette, the way it works is that it takes about an hour once a week. We'd come back next week, and we could go over the lesson together. If you got any questions, we could go over those. Would this time next week work? Maybe Monday about 6 o'clock?
I think it should work.
Fantastic.
I have no more kids home and
All right.
nothing to do, apparently.
Well, great. Great. Well, if you'd like, I can just put our names and the time on here.
Yes,
And that way,
please.
okay, and so I write Ann and Jane and Monday, 6 o'clock. I hand that, and then I hand her the gift bag. I say, we'd like you to have this.
How precious.
It's
Thank
just
you.
a little book and something to help you in your Bible study. So, all right then. We'll see you next week.
Sounds great. We can't wait. Do you mind if I bring my whole neighborhood?
Absolutely. Sometimes
Okay.
people do that too. All right, we'll see you then.
Thank you.
Bye. Pretty simple. And it really is that easy. Because even if they say no, they're not going to take you out and shoot you. They're just not. I've never had anybody do that. So they're just going to say no. That's all. So, all right. So what I'd like for us to do right now is just divide up into groups of 2 or 3. And let's just do this together, okay? So it's all up here. Actually, we'll need to go back. There we go. That's the one. That's the page that we want right there. That way you can see it. If you need a reminder of what you're saying, you can just glance up there at the screen and do it with each other. So one of you pick one to be the Bible study giver, you know, the one who'll be knocking at the door, and one who'll be answering the door. And just go through it a time or two with each other, okay? All right, we're going to take 10 minutes and do this.
Just move the person who stuff in front of the board. So I could push but I did say,
Yeah, because there is a connection, and they've already been to our house a few times to borrow tools.
yeah, so that's been all been fun. Punch of holes for the census and with the order. So we have that little connection, but I did say, are you interested? What's the book about? This one took about last 2,000 years ago. Really practice. That's what I want. So I already have the bag.
Yeah, and those very friendly, outgoing, you know, so neither one of us is shy, so we both have that. And it makes a big difference if you're an introvert. It doesn't roll off the skin, it's not like grease.
One minute. Was that enjoyable for you? It's not as bad, is it, as it feels like it's going to be? Unless, did your partner give you a hard time? I have seen Adventists give each other a really hard time with this. And you know why we do that? Because that's how we imagine it's going to be at the door. But it's usually not. It's usually just so simple. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, all right. So, and then there you go. You've got an appointment. All right, so just to follow up for a moment as we're wrapping up this segment here. So, you've got the appointment, and you go back next week, and you knock on the door. And you knock on the door. And you knock on the door. And they're not there. What do? Yeah. I'll tell you what you do. You have a sticky note in your pocket or in your purse, your Bible bag, and you write a little note. Hey, Martha, I'm so sorry I missed you today. I'll look forward to seeing you next Monday at 6 o'clock. Love, Ann and Jane. Stick it on the door. All right? Yes. I should answer that. Thank you, Brother
Two
Don.
of us went together, and the first meeting, the lady was very receptive and wanted us to come back. And I can't remember now if she was there the second time we went, but then the next time she wasn't there.
Wasn't there? Yeah.
Just didn't, if she was, she just never answered the door.
Yeah.
And then we went again, and we never
Couldn't
met
find
up with her again.
Yeah.
So we gave her a phone call,
Yes.
and she didn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
So we just felt like she was no longer interested.
That's
So-
often the case. I remember going to, well, let me finish up this. Okay, so the first time, I leave a note. The next week, I'll go back because I've said I look forward to seeing you next Monday at 6. So I'm there next Monday at 6. I knock on the door, knock on the door, knock on the door. They're not there. I leave exactly the same note. Hi, Martha. So sorry to miss you. I'll look forward to seeing you next Monday at 6 o'clock. Love, Ann and Jane. Stick it on the door. The third week, I go back, knock on the door. We Southerners, we're so good about this. I mean, bad about this. We hate to tell people no. Do we not? We hate to tell people no. Oh my goodness, we'll do anything but tell people no. We just won't show up. And so, knock on the door. This is the third time. Knock on the door, knock on the door, knock on the door. They're not there. I leave a note again. Hi, Martha. Looks like this isn't a good time. Here's my phone number. Here's my email. Call me, text me, email me. Here's my Facebook. Here's my Instagram, whatever. Give them all your contact information that you want to give them because you have nothing to lose now. You have nothing to lose because you're done. And at this point, I say, give me a call and let's see if we can set up another time. And here's a little book I think you might enjoy. And at this point, I'm going to give them a book like Desire of Ages. Great Controversy, some major, some full message book, because why not? Why not? I've got nothing to lose. And they may have everything to gain by me leaving this full message book. So that's what I do. And then I know that they're probably done. However, if I can, I really like to drop by 2 or 3 weeks later, preferably at a different time on a different day, because their work schedule may have changed. I don't know what's going on. I have actually gone to the house later and had someone come to the door. Oh, Ann, I am so glad to see you. I just could not organize myself enough to even leave you a note or give you a phone call. My mother was dying in the hospital. We had the funeral yesterday. I do want to have Bible studies. I really need it. I've actually had that happen, that kind of thing happen. More often, I've had, oh, hi, yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. It's like, well, great. It's nice to see you. And would it be okay if I leave your name on our mailing list, just so that if something interesting comes to town that I think you might enjoy, I could let you know? Sure. I've never had anybody tell me no. I'm not saying nobody would ever say no, but I'm just saying I've never had anybody tell me no. So at least I've asked. I've asked. Any comments or questions about this before we move into our next thing? And do you need 3 minutes for a litter box break? Or are you good? Yes, sir.
Have you been keeping statistics of people who are taking the Bible studies, who reject the Bible studies, who get baptized? I mean, is anybody doing that kind of statistics so they know how to improve the program?
I'm just going to tell you my personal experience, and this is rough numbers. I don't have exact numbers. But I tend to get about 30% to say yes to a sit-down Bible study. Of that 30%, about 30% are going to get through to the end of the lessons. And of that 30%, about 50% are going to say yes to being baptized. So, what, half of 1%? No, 5%, about 5% will be baptized. Yes, take a 3-minute break.
Yeah, but what would you have if you hadn't gone out and followed it?
Exactly. That's actually a pretty good statistic when you stop to think about it. Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm just saying what's me, but I think that's pretty accurate for most people. It's the initial number that may be a little lower or a little higher. I've heard 25% as a good standard average for the number of people who will say yes to a sit-down Bible study. The numbers drop way off when you go to drop off, when you go to a drop-off lesson where you're just dropping it off at the door, and it drops farther yet when they're doing it by mail or online. The numbers just really drop. Right, but I'm talking about for a sit-down Bible study. That's right about, I think that's pretty average for everybody.
Say yes to the Bible studies. and then-
25% is average.
Okay, and then if maybe 25 to 30% of those will
We'll
finish the program.
the lessons, yes.
And then
About
maybe
50%
will say, yes,
will-
I want to be baptized.
We'll make a decision for baptism, yes. Of those who, so you can get all the way to the end of a series of lessons and people can be very interested and for some reason, they just don't seal the deal.
Personally, or other people in this program, meet with people. What's a popular day?
Every evenings are usually best just because a lot of people work. Although it's amazing now how many people are working from home. COVID really did change things a lot. And so I'm
But
meeting
people are
more and more
also
people who work
super
from home.
busy now. Well,
Yeah.
I got to go shopping. I got to watch
You
the
know-
grandkids. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Evenings just tend to be good. It doesn't matter as much, I think, the day. I'll just say I'm giving Bible studies every day. So every day of the week. But I have the most Bible studies on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's because I work it that way. Yeah,
So you make suggestions of when you can meet.
correct. I always do that. Before I go to the door, I always have 2 times in mind, different days, when I could be there. Because my schedule is pretty full right now. And most people who work, your schedule is full too. You've got you have to decide how many time slots you've actually got. How many Bible studies do you want to give, and how many can you reasonably give? Can you do 2 a week? Can you do 1? Can you do 3? Do you want to do it on the weekends, or do you want to do it in the evening? So all those things are going to inform how many Bible studies you can do.
Now, do you have a territory that you personally try to cover? I mean you. So each person that is in this program, I'm not talking about the student, I'm talking about the Bible study giver.
The leaders, yeah.
Do you pick your own territory that you want to try to tackle? Is that right?
Yeah, I work with I personally right now am just working with churches, and I'm mostly doing training. So I'm going out with people who are learning how to give Bible studies. So I'm working with their schedule, what they're working with. But
So I imagine most of these canvassers, not you personally then,
yes.
pick something within 5 miles of their home.
correct,
Or
yes.
10 miles of their
The
home.
churches that I've seen, yeah, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to assign names pretty close to where the person lives to make it easy for them. You live in a heavily rural area, you may have to drive a little bit. You live in a city like Knoxville, you're probably going to try to have it in the area that's close to your church, So, but yeah, they just try to make it as close as possible to where the person lives. It makes it easier if you don't have to drive 45 minutes to someone's house. It's really difficult to do that, especially if it has to be at 7 o'clock and your Bible study goes till 8:30, and then you're 10 o'clock getting home, and, it's just, that makes it difficult. So, I don't know if that answered your question. Okay, good. All right, well then let's get into our next presentation. And let me just say, I've got some things up here for you. Feel free to take all of this that you want to look at. It's just informational material. But I'd like to talk with you about giving Bible studies. So let's talk about the real easy stuff first. The first thing, okay, I know this does work. I'm sorry? Okay, good. All right. Yay, there it is. Okay, let's see. We were on the correct Bible study, the correct slideshow, and I went backwards, I think. But I think he can set it up. I think he can fix what I did. So yeah, that's good news. While we're getting that going, and here it is, I want to talk to you about this because this is crucial to this giving Bible studies. Once you've gotten a few names, once you've been to a few houses, or you're praying about some of your friends, I like to suggest that people make a list on a piece of scrap paper, not on their card that they're going to be praying on all the time. But make a list on a piece of scrap paper of people, and then just start praying about that list. Say, Lord, who do you want me to write down on my prayer list of who I'm going to start working with right now? And pray about that list that on your scrap paper for a week. And then write down a list of 3 to 6 names on your card of people that you feel you'd like to start working with. And then start praying for the people on that list. And here's specifically what to say. Lord, how can I show your love to the people on this list this week? Get real specific. There's some ideas on the back of the card of things you can actually do to show the love of Christ to that person. That's why I suggest that the people you put on this card be local names. Aunt Mary Lizzie in California, it's going to be tougher for you to be showing her intentional love of God with the intention of praying for an open door to introduce Jesus in a personal way to that person. But especially as you're leading up to meetings, this is a great little tool to use. I can't tell you how many people I've seen baptized from this kind of intentional prayer. Lord, what can I do to show your love to this person this week? And then do it. Do it. And start praying that the Lord will open a door for you to specifically talk to them about Jesus. Then, once that door opens, Lord, would you open a door for me to study the Bible with this person? You will be shocked how many doors open when you do this kind of simple prayer. It's not magical. Jesus is just waiting. I hate to say he's waiting for us to do, because he's not waiting on us, but he wants to use us. He wants to give us a gift, too, of seeing him at work. So Jesus is only waiting for you to ask, and he will show you something amazing. So that's the card, the prayer card. All right, so let's talk about the easy stuff first about getting Bible studies. You want to decide about your Bible studies. 1, how many Bible studies can you give in a week? 2, what kind of Bible studies would you like that to be? A personal Bible study, a group Bible study? You want it to be sit down in the home or online? Sometimes people have had some really good success doing Zoom or Facebook Bible studies. I personally really lean heavily towards just sitting down in someone's home. I just think there's something very personal about that. You develop a close bond with people when you're doing that. But, sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes they can't do that. So work it out. And then in terms of how do you get Bible studies, your church is probably already getting names from the Facebook campaign that started just about a week ago. Yeah, excellent. Starting to get names already. Your pastor has names. Your personal ministries leader has names. Y'all have names. And the fresher the names, the better. Let me just tell you, as soon as you get that name, go see them that week. Go see them that week. Every day that passes, it's cooling. that interest is cooling. So go quickly. The faster you go, the higher the chance of them saying yes. So just, if you get a name from your pastor or your personal ministries leader, take that as a mission to get right out there. Go that day if you can. The sooner, the better. They will be very pleased to see you at their door, especially if you don't take long. When you go to run that lead, just run the lead and leave. You're not there for a 45-minute chat, even if they ask you. try to keep it really brief. You don't have to be unfriendly, but at the same time, two things. One, they weren't expecting you. They may have dinner burning on the stove. And secondly, you may have more names, more people you need to visit that day. If that's your day to get out and see people, you may need to do that. And if you take up all your time, then you didn't get a chance to go see the other person too. So let me just encourage you, don't spend too much time when you're running that lead. Now, when you go back for the Bible study, that's another story. We're going to come to that in just a moment. Okay, so how do you get leads? It's easy. Get them from your pastor, get them from your personal ministries leader. You can, your neighbor, Brother Don, was telling me a story just now about a neighbor that just moved in. They're already making friends. He's already given him a book. This is going to be a Bible study before you know it. And they've lived there one day. And so there's already a connection being made there. And I encourage that. Next door neighbors are great people to study the Bible with. So I told you the story of Dave and Jenny, whose doorbell I rang, and then I panicked and gave all the stuff to Gary, and he had to run the lead. You know, he had to say do all the talking. But we had a Bible study with them, and they started studying. They had just had a baby, their brand new baby, and so we had Bible study with them at 8:00 at night after the baby went down for the night. We'd go and have Bible study, and Jenny would fix me herbal tea every time we went. I love herbal tea, and she did too. And we just had a wonderful time, just this young couple, and we just having such a delightful time getting to know one another over the Bible. Well, we invited them to the series of meetings that we did, but they were not able to come until the very last night. The last night of the meetings. And Gary and I were leaving like a week later, 2 weeks later, we were moving away, and so was the evangelist, but we introduced them to the pastor. He picked up the Bible study, and Dave and Jenny were baptized. Their children were raised in the Adventist church, went through Adventist schools. The Lord worked. But I had still never run one lead by the time I got done with that. And so the next series of meetings, I'm driving back up to Massachusetts from my home in Alabama and panicking all the way up there, thinking, I'm going to have to knock on doors when I get up there. Oh, no. And I was praying all the way, God, you're going to have to help me. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do something. God, you're going to have to. And so that afternoon, as soon as I drove into town, I went straight to the evangelist's house. He wasn't home yet, but she was home, so I was in studying, talking with her, with his wife, and we were just chatting until he came home from the office that Sunday afternoon, and he had gone to the office to pick up all the lead cards for Bible studies that had come in. And he came in, and seriously, he had a stack this big. We had 100 Bible study leads cards, and he handed me this stack of cards. I took them in my hands, and I had been dreading that moment until, the moment those cards touched my hand. And I was shocked. All I wanted to do was get out there and meet those people. All I could think was, there are new friends in this stack of cards. There are people that are going to be in heaven. There are people that are going to learn about the three angels' message. There are people in this that are going to become dear friends. And do you know, I am still friends with several of the people that were in that stack of cards 40 years ago. God works. And he changes hearts. That was it. So when you're first getting started, going to doors, use a script. I recommend you take this script I gave you and memorize it. It's not long. Just memorize it. Don't just stand there at the door and say, you don't want to study the Bible, do you? Don't say that. God will change your heart. God will help you out. He will be with you. Another way you can get Bible studies is by door-to-door solicitation. You can just go knocking on doors saying, hi, would you like Bible studies? If you go to our Georgia Cumberland Conference Leads website, which is on the Georgia Cumberland Conference website, There are surveys there that you can use to go door to door if that's what you want to do. The best possible place to get Bible studies is people who visit church. They're already here. Just ask them if they'd like to study the Bible. Coordinate that with your pastor and with your personal ministries leader. Let me just encourage you to do that. Coordinate that. But that is a fantastic way to meet people. Networking, church. We were doing meetings, and this woman started coming to our meetings. She and I just kind of made a connection. We started talking together after the meetings at night, and on Sabbath morning, when she started coming to some of the meetings we did on Sabbath morning, we just made a connection, and it wasn't long before she made a commitment to be baptized. Now, it took her a couple of years to work through things like smoking and some other issues that she was working through, but she made a decision pretty fast. Another time, a lady came to visit our church, and my husband said to me, "This lady, it's her first time here. Go meet her." And so I hunted her down, and we started talking together, and she said, "Yeah." I said, "Hey, I hear this is your first time to visit us." And she said, "It is." She said, "My son lives in Chattanooga." This is when we lived in Georgia. She said, "My son lives in Chattanooga, and he has just become a Seventh-day Adventist. And he has been after me to go to church on Saturday. And he just keeps saying, 'Mom, it's the right day to go to church. You know it's the right day. You got to go.'" And so she said, "So here I am." And I said, "Wow, that's amazing." I said, "Would you like to study the Bible?" I mean, seriously, it went just like this. "Would you like to study the Bible together?" "Yes," she said, "I would." We started studying. She was baptized. Few months later, her ex-husband was baptized. They were remarried the next day, moved back to Chattanooga. She started doing some Bible work with her son. And she died just a couple months ago in the blessed hope, my friends. God works. There are lots of options of what kind of Bible study to use. Frankly, they're all good. They're all good. I will tell you, I do have a couple of favorites just because. I really like Gary Gibbs' Prophecies of Hope. Those are excellent Bible studies. They're Daniel-based. I love Daniel because it's a story. Y'all know I like stories. And it's a story, so it's a fantastic series. It draws all of our doctrines out of the story, and it's fantastic. Another great series of lessons is Karen Lewis's, and I just forgot the name of it. Do I have it written down? No, of course I don't. What was that? No, it's not Come Alive. That one's not bad. But I can't remember it. It doesn't matter. They're good. You'll find a good one. Whatever your church is using will be great. Discover is great. I like that it is written lessons. Yeah. But now I'd like to talk to you about the harder part of doing Bible studies. And that is how to relate to people. When I started doing Bible studies, when I started out giving Bible studies, I read all the books I could find on how to give Bible studies. I went to every class I could go to on how to give Bible studies, because that's not what I was trained to do. I was not trained in theology. That's not what I went to school for. I went to school for medical stuff. I'm a midwife. I'm a missionary physician's assistant. I was not trained as a Bible instructor, and so this was something new for me, but it was what I really wanted to do. But here's what I was taught. I was taught, don't go in there and spend a lot of time chit-chatting. That was the word that was used, chit-chatting. Yeah. Don't just go in there and chit-chat with people. Spend 5 minutes when you get there saying hello and getting to know them, 45 minutes giving the Bible study, 10 minutes to ask the decision question, work through any questions they have a word of prayer, and say goodbye. And then you're out of there. Leave immediately. 1 hour max. Get in, deliver the information, get out. Well, I have to say my ideas of witnessing have changed a lot since then. Yes. Witnessing used to mean, for me, getting people into Bible studies so that I could tell them what I knew they needed to know. I had a burden to tell people those distinctive truths of Adventism that are so beautiful, so fantastic. The Sabbath, the state of the dead, the mark of the beast. This good stuff. The judgment. I'll tell you, I love this message. You know, every doctrine we teach is based on love. Every single one is based on Jesus and his love. The old story of Jesus and his love, yes. And I love this message. It's a powerful message. It's totally changed my life. But as I worked to figure out the best, most compelling ways to express every single doctrine that was very logical, easy to understand, easy to accept, I still had one big problem. And that was, it was still my agenda. I consciously thought, they may think they know what they want to know, but I know what they need to know. Oh, exactly. But I didn't know that yet. For me, at that time, it was still all about me. I knew exactly what Bible studies I was going to give. I had my pre-planned agenda. I knew if we didn't miss any weeks, I knew on which date I was going to ask for which decisions. I knew on which date I was going to ask them to be baptized and when they were probably going to be baptized or when I was going to drop them as a Bible student based on their decisions. I knew all this because I had it all planned out. Sometimes if somebody would ask a question that was off topic, I would put them off sometimes for weeks until it fit my agenda, my schedule. One day I went to a young man's house. He had phoned one, I think it was It Is Written. He had phoned It Is Written. He'd been watching the TV show. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was It Is Written because we didn't have many TV shows back then. And he'd phoned in several times for free material, and he'd talked with one of the Bible counselors there, and so they had sent us information about him, and so I set up a time to study the Bible with him, and when I got there for that first study, and I took a friend with me, I got there for that first study, and he said, I want you to tell me about the Sabbath. He said, that's just what I want to know. I want to know all about the Sabbath. Well, I thought, my goodness, I have never, that's really fast. That is really fast. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what, that's a great thing, let's study that. But would it be okay if I give you some background information first? So sure, he said. So notice that I did not ask him more about his question. I didn't ask him what it was about the Sabbath he wanted to know, or what did he already know about the Sabbath. I didn't ask him anything because I didn't think I needed to know what he knew because I knew what he needed to know, right? So we spent 3 or 4 weeks studying Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel, the judgment, this kind of stuff. This is the fastest I'd ever studied the Sabbath with somebody. About number week 4 or 5, we were studying the Sabbath together. And when we got to the end of that study, I asked him what I always ask at the end of studying the Sabbath with somebody. I said, do you have any questions about what we've studied? No, he said. And I said, does it seem clear to you that Saturday is the Sabbath day that the Bible's talking about? Yeah, he said, I don't have any questions about that. He said, I totally see that that's what the Bible says. He said, my only question, he says, I totally believe it. My only question is, how am I supposed to keep it? Am I supposed to keep the Sabbath? Well, yeah. And so we talked a little bit, and I said, this is a great topic. How about we spend our whole time next week just talking about that? And he said, I would love that, but, he said, I have just taken a job out of state, and I am moving day after tomorrow. I don't even know where I'm going to be living yet. I'm just, going to go down there, find a place to live, and I start my job right away. He said, however, my sister, I'll be in touch with my sister, and I can tell her where I'll be. If you want to send me some stuff, I'd love to get some more material. I said, I'd be glad to put together a packet of material for you. Yeah, absolutely. You can imagine how disappointed I was at losing this young man. I mean, he was such an interesting young man, and he was so sincere. He seemed really dedicated to learning more about the Bible. But I got some books and materials to his sister, and I just prayed that the Lord would do something. And a couple of years later, this is when I was living in St. Louis, a pretty big city, and the news was playing on my clock radio, and that tells you how long ago this was. And the announcer, it was the news at the top of the hour, and the announcer was talking about a shooting that had taken place in the northern part of the city. And the northern part of St. Louis is not a real good area. It's kind of dangerous. And it seemed as though it was a drug deal that had kind of gone sideways. And there were 3 young men killed. And one of them was my young friend. I mean, he had a very unusual name. And not only was I heartbroken about, I'm still heartbroken about that, all these years later. But I just thought, did I handle that well? Did I handle his interest well? Was it more about my agenda than his interest? And that got me started thinking, I've had to learn that there is another way to approach Bible studies and working with people, seeing what is it that God is trying to do in people's lives. See, I thought I knew what he needed to know. But God had already been working in his life. He didn't start when I showed up at his door. So I didn't have necessarily to give him all that I'd given him. But did I even know what he knew? No, because I never asked him. So now, when I go into a home, I go in a totally different attitude. Instead of me going in as the big expert, knowing everything they need to know, and exactly what they need to know, when they need to know it, I go in as a learner. And we sit down, and I take my Bible with me, but a lot of times I don't open it that first Bible study. Because what I want to do when I go in that first time, I want to hear their story. I want to find out, what is God doing in their lives? What are the questions he's raising in their minds? And so I just ask them, I sit down and I say, and this is fantastic. Thank you for having us in. This is so great. It's wonderful to meet people who want to study the Bible. Tell me, how did you get to know Jesus? Tell me your story. I just kind of push the play button and let people go. People want to tell their story. People want to tell what God is doing in their lives. Many people feel that they have very few people that they can tell these things to. And if they feel like they can tell you, they want to tell you. If they feel like you want to hear it, they want to tell you. And as they're telling their story, a lot of times they'll tell me what they want to study. Because they'll tell me what questions God's raising in their minds. They'll do it. They'll tell me. If they get to the end of their story, and I still haven't quite figured out, because I'm not that smart, what they want to know, what they're interested in, what Jesus is doing in their lives, I'll ask them. I'll just say, well, how can I be a blessing in your life? I want to walk with you, on your journey too. What kind of questions is God raising in your mind? Or is there something you'd especially like to get into? I have never had anybody yet ask me, first lesson, tell me about the mark of the beast. Just haven't had it happen. But if it did happen, guess what we would do? We would find Jesus in that lesson. We would not be looking at the Catholic Church and 666 and all that. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't be studying that. We would be looking at the battle between Christ and Satan. That's what we'd be looking at. And who's going to win? That's what we'd be looking at. And then I'd say something like, does that make sense? Because once they see that mark of the beast issue for what it really is, this battle between Christ and Satan, between good and evil, a lot of things start to come into play. They're starting to say, oh, I see it. So it's not some computer chip. Correct. You are absolutely correct. That's right. That's right. And then I'll say, there's a lot more to study about this. Would you like us to circle back around to this at some point? Yes. It's just that simple. But they will often say, well, I would love to study Bible prophecy. Or sometimes they'll say, if they don't know exactly what, they just know they want to study the Bible, I'll just say, well, here are some things that a lot of people like to study. I say, sometimes people want to study the big topics of the Bible. That's your traditional topical Bible studies. It is written, voice of prophecy. Those are your topical Bible studies. So, a lot of times, when I say Bible prophecy, seriously, 80 to 90% of the time, they're saying, yes, I want to study that. And then I like to get them into something like prophecies of hope. But Voice of Prophecy has an excellent prophecy series as well. Those are all good series. So I've had to learn, for my own sake, that I don't know everything. They need to help me. They need to help me understand what they need to learn. It's okay to give them some help, a hand, and some direction in the Bible study. It's okay. It's okay to let them tell me what they want to study. It's all right. See, keeping the Sabbath may not be the most important issue in a person's life. Believe it or not. It may not even be really close to the issue that they're dealing with, that they're struggling with. They may have a kid that's going off the rails. Their marriage may be in crisis, or their health. They may have just gotten a bad diagnosis. There are hidden things in people's lives that they're struggling with, lies that they've learned about God, and lies they've learned about themselves, that they need to come to some understanding of truth about before they can trust Him. Like the woman at the well. What was the lie she'd learned about God? One of the lies that it told about in the story. Yeah, she was an outcast. Her marriages, whether it was her fault or not, had excluded her from being acceptable. She had this idea, too, that it mattered where you worshiped. Now, there were certain rules about how you worship, and if you don't keep those rules, you're not right. These were some lies that she'd learned about God, that she was outcast, and she had to learn something totally different, and Jesus came to tell it to her. He had to go through Samaria to let her know the truth about a God that loves, accepts, and does not condemn us. Lord, thank you. Thank you for that. So we'll never get to those hidden issues in people's lives without relationship with them. And you only get relationship with time. So take the time to build relationship. When you go in there to study with people, take 20, 30 minutes and then study for 20 or 30 minutes. And that'll be fantastic. That'll be just about right. That'll be just about right. And then talk and pray for another 20 or 30 minutes, and then go. And Jesus is working. God is working. Relationship is being built. Decisions are being made. Things are being learned about a God that does not condemn, a God that saves. Isn't that what John 3:17? God did not send his son into the world to condemn. He sent him into the world to save the world. So it's truly not about me. It's truly not about me. So ask them what's the question they would most like to have answered, and then show them respect and offer them choices of how they want to go on. I remember studying the state of the dead with a lady. She wanted to study it. We were at that point in the lessons where that was the next lesson. And she, in fact, at the end of our previous lesson, she'd started asking some questions about what happened when you die. And I said, well, that's a great question, because that's actually next on the list. Would you like to study that next week? Yes, I would very much like to study that. So we went through the study. And again, I went through the study before I asked her much about her viewpoint on it, but that was a little bit intentional. I wanted to get in there with some preemptive stuff about what happens when you die, but I did want to hear her story. So at the end, I said, so now tell me, what do you think about this? And what's been your experience? And she said, I'm not sure yet what I think about it. It makes a lot of sense. But then she told me an experience she'd had when she had a spirit visitation. I am hearing these stories all the time now. When I first started out, I heard every few years I'd hear a story like this. Now it's every few weeks, it feels like. I'm hearing some story about a spirit manifestation. Spiritualism is very popular in our world today, in America. And so she told me this story, and I said, wow, that's powerful. I said, what do you think? What do you think? And she said, I don't know. She said, but what we're just studied in the Bible has really raised questions in my mind as if it was real. And I said, oh, I think it was real. It was real. And she said, well, then what it was. And I said, would you like us to study it again next week? She said, yeah, let's study it. I'd like some more study on it next week. So we studied it the next week. Again, we talked more about spiritualism in particular the next week. And a lot of times your Bible lessons do that. They'll have a study on the state of the dead, then one on spiritualism. They'll have a study on the Sabbath, and then one on the change of the Sabbath. They kind of do a follow-up on some of these big ones. So we did a study on spiritualism. And at the end, I said, well, did that answer any of your questions from last week? And she said, yeah, I'm thinking about it. And I said, well, would you like to study it again next week, or do you want to take a little break and us come back to it later? She said, let's take a little break. I said, okay. So the next week, we didn't go deeper, we just went wider. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go deeper on the thing with death. We went wider and studied some other topics. Some things that I already knew she could agree on, but that we hadn't necessarily covered in much depth. Maybe we touched on it, but we just went and studied some other things. And then after a few weeks, she'd already made a decision to be baptized. After a couple weeks of this, she made a decision she wanted to be baptized. So I started her baptismal studies, which of course, you come to death on that because that's one of our baptismal doctrines. And so when we got to the one on death, I said, well, when we studied this a while back, you had some real questions about this because of your experience with that. I said, any questions? Oh, no, she said, I've absolutely settled that. Absolutely. What the Bible says is true. She just had to have time to work it out for herself. But I needed to give her time to work that out. I couldn't tell her what to believe. She needed to decide with Jesus what to believe based on the Bible. All I could do was just say, here's what the Bible says. Not, so you need to think that. She had to come to that conclusion for herself. Now, I'm not saying that sometimes you don't have to help people think things through. Sometimes you do. But a lot of people really do think things through on their own if you give them a little time for it. But keep asking. Just ask. Give them the option. Give them a choice. Do you want to study this more? Do you want to come back to it later?
Yeah, I just wanted to share with you.
Here's the mic.
I just wanted to share. I was a Catholic, and when I came into, how I came in was I got a invitation for evangelism series, and I went through the whole process, and I was convicted, but then they wanted to baptize. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now, slow the bus back down.
Yeah.
And it took me another 4 months
Yeah.
before I needed that.
Yes.
And then one day, reading the Bible, it just hit me. I need to be baptized. You know, I just had to work it out. So I can
Yes.
totally relate to this.
Yes. And I will just say, it is okay to slow down the baptism process a little bit. It's okay. Let people really become part of the family. Give them time to work through their lifestyle issues and to feel confident in their victory over things like smoking or whatever their addictions are. You know, it's okay. It's okay to let people have that time. It gives them a chance to really put down some roots. And their baptism is so meaningful at that point because they just feel like so much part of the family and everybody's celebrating and you're their friends already. It's not like they're coming into this group that they don't know anybody. They know people. They know you. They've become part of the family. So I personally, my personal experience with that has been that really cuts the attrition rate. If you just slow down that baptismal process, give people time to incorporate into the church, to really become part of the family. Give them a job to do. You know, job like AV or greeting or, you know, you're not going to put them teaching Sabbath school. You know what I'm saying? But they can do things like help take up the offering or whatever. Your church will decide. You know, you can decide what are good jobs for people who are pre-members or new members that aren't ready to have a leadership position but want to get involved. Give them something to do. And that's a great way to help people to put down roots in the church too. And by the way, at our weekend in Cohutta Springs, the weekend focus is going to be retaining new members. So that's what we're going to be focusing on, although there'll be a lot about winning souls too, but the focus is going to be on retaining new members. Okay, any questions at this point? You'll notice that I didn't talk to you about the specifics of how to study the Sabbath or anything like that. We could do a whole afternoon on that, you know what I'm saying, just on that one topic. But this is, in general, how do you conduct a Bible study? You conduct it by focusing on relationship and let the information flow out of the relationship and let the Bible do the heavy lifting. You know, let the Bible present the teachings of the church, and then your relationship will help them to make a decision on that information. Yes, ma'am.
The one question I was having when you were talking about your friend, your study about the death.
Yes.
And you were saying how you went the second week in a row. Would you be recommending, like we had working on the amazing facts, but death and spiritualism, they're not right next door to each other. Do you recommend like skipping then to that next one?
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
Most of these, you don't have to do them in order. Most of the topical lessons, you don't have to do them in order. You can look ahead, make sure that there's nothing in it that you haven't covered. But usually by the time you've gotten to some of those big topics, by the time you've gotten to death, you've covered most everything that's going to be a deal breaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question is, can you tell us where we could check into further how to get a hold of these cards and check out pricing and all that kind of stuff?
Yes. You can. Jack Phillips, he's the director of the LEADS program. So if you go to the Georgia Cumberland Conference website, it's gcc.com/leads. gccsda.com/leads, sorry. gccsda.com/leads. Jack's email address should be there. And he can tell you all about that. You're welcome. I would tell you, but I really don't know. I just, I told Jack I need some, so he gave them to me. Okay, so doables. Establish your own daily time with Jesus. That's number one. What is number one? That according to Jesus, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. So establish your own daily time with Jesus. Pray for your family, friends, and work associates. Make that list. Look for open doors. Pray some more. Stretch yourself. You know, if you've never gone out and given a Bible study, try it. And keep the first thing the first thing. And what is the first thing? Seeking Jesus. seeking Jesus. Okay, I want to read you a letter. Remember I told you about that lead that I ran, or didn't run. Well, this is them. And that girl on the end, that girl in the plaid red, she was the newborn baby. That when we, and Dave and Jenny are the two on the far right. I got a letter from him a few years ago. Dear Ann, what an unexpected pleasure to hear from you. It has been a long time, but it was one of the most special times in Jenny's and my life when we studied God's Word with you and Gary all those evenings. It was an amazing miracle that God sent the two of you to study with us. It was absolutely life-changing, and I still love to tell of that experience. Thank you for sharing your family picture. I've attached a picture taken last winter in front of our new church addition. This is in New Haven, Connecticut. On the left is our daughter, Sarah. She graduated in 2004 from Southern Adventist University with a degree in biology and now teaches high school science at her alma mater. Our son, Ben, is next. He has completed his junior year at Andrews and is studying architecture. I have just retired and am enjoying more work for the Lord and my family. Love, Dave and Jenny. God works. What you do makes a difference for eternity. Let's have a word of prayer. Loving Jesus, thank you that you give us a chance to just do something in your vineyard. And we're not skilled, we're not eloquent, we're not even all that smart, but Lord, you work with us and you do something through us, and weak and defective as we are. I thank you for that. Oh Lord, we are yours. And so we just ask that you would do through us what we cannot do, that your Holy Spirit would do what we can't do, that you would change lives, and that we would see fruit in heaven, fruit from your vineyard that we've been able to cultivate. In Jesus' name, amen. Jesus be with you, and thank you.
Just want to do a quick appeal here. We're going to be getting some Bible study cards. Praying is going to be the number one thing we do, because without that, things will fall apart. But with that, there's going to be something awesome. The other thing is we want to really encourage this. Are these meant to be given away? I was going to print them in our printer, but we have a brand new printer. So, okay. So we want to make sure we want to encourage people to go to this. And lastly, Jeanette, you have some things here. Jeanette is our point person, from my understanding, for the Leeds point person. So in other words, if you want to be engaged in Bible studies, talk with Jeanette. There's also some, so just let her know. And we also have some Bible studies. If you want to describe them, Jeanette, can I give it to you?
Sure. I was just asked to do a quick show and tell on the Bible studies that we have on hand in stock that you can help yourself to, right? And just take what you need to give away. Don't take them just to put them on your shelf and gather dust. But so topical Bible studies. We have my favorite. I'll start with my favorite, but it doesn't mean anything. You'll have your own favorites. So the It Is Written set. We don't have a lot of those on stock, but we do have a few. They look like this, and they have, I think there's 25 in a set, maybe 27. This is It Is Written, the Mark Finley that you see on TV. He's got a beautiful set of Bible studies. We also have, speaking of TV personalities, this is the Amazing Facts set, and we've got them also in that same room. 25 in that set, something like that, 27. And so we have Amazing Facts, and It Is Written here that you can use. Sometimes people sign up for prophecy studies, and we have two flavors of those. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So we've got the prophecy seminar that they've got. They're a little. These are meaty. This is a very good set. I think there are 32 of those. And we have a lot of those on. And then the storacles of prophecy. Those are new to me. Very glossy. Looks really good. We have those also in the room. So you don't have to necessarily. We're both being Vanna up here. You don't necessarily have to, go out there and privately order your own, or feel free to, if you're like, Jeanette, I don't like that. I like Discovery, whatever it is you like. Feel free to order whatever it is that you like, particularly to use, because there is no one set. And these are all, you will see, these are all very different from each other. And so depending on your personality or the personality of the person you're working with, you may want to choose whichever works best for you. The other thing so I mean, I'm kind of like a coordinate. I kind of consider myself almost like a data person, like coordinating as the leads pop in. And as we have people that are interested, we probably have about a dozen people that have told me at different times, if there's ever a Bible study in my area, let's say they live in, I don't know, Jefferson City or Bulls Gap or whatever, there's people, Morrisburg, wherever they live, there's people that have told me, hey, I'd be willing to go and take a Bible study there. And so what I wanted to do is get a quick show of hands. If you're one of the willing, now you may have been one of the willing and you told me before, but feel free to raise your hand again if you're still willing to do a delivery, or hey, let's do it the way Ann told us today. So, up it up and offer the in-person Bible study. But would you raise your hands and I will quickly write down or take a picture or whatever works fastest. We'll take a picture would be fast, but I left my phone back there. So I'm going to have to write your names down or.
Right. So if you could just give her a moment, because this is fantastic.
As they come in, we need to respond quickly. As she said, we need to respond quickly. So thank you. So we got Jolie, and Maylin, and Tori. And Mr. Newell's on the list, even though his hand's not up.
Anyone on this side? Mrs. Petit?
Is there anybody over on this side that raised their hand? Or is this the no side? We are. Okay, so that was.
Are you willing to drop off Bible studies or do in-home Bible studies?
Yes. Okay. All right.
It's okay. It's weighted one way. All right, that concludes it. And Abide, since you already have it, if you could just mute it, we'll cut the stream and we're good to go. Thank you so much. Thank you,